session, but it's
I know.
during the middle of.
Oh, okay.
It's 5:30 on Wednesday, March 16th, and I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Education. Ms. Stoikoi, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer? Here. Ms. White?
Here.
Item B, agenda. Number 1, motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the March 16th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please
There-
call the, oh,
There was the one, does everybody know the one thing was added?
it's under H1.
Okay. Just make sure
Okay.
everybody, yep.
Okay, please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Hold on, I lost my spot here. Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Schaefer? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Item C, opening ceremony. Welcome our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community. Committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. Number 2, informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, comments will include the name and address of the individual and be limited to 3 minutes. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen. And for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the librarian's desk. The next regularly scheduled meetings are April 6th and April 20th here at Cuyahoga Falls High School Library at 5:30 p.m. 612 construction meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, March 17th, here in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library at 6 p.m. And there's a special Board of Education meeting scheduled for Saturday, March 19th in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library at 8:45 a.m. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance and positive reflections, Ms. Coco.
Please stand if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A positive reflection for this evening is a quote from Coretta Scott King. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members.
Thank you. Now, item D, presentations. Number 1, Top Tiger recognition. Mr. Shabity.
Thank you and good evening. A lot of times we hear all the negatives that are going on around school districts, but this is our opportunity to recognize those young people that come to school every day, do the right thing, exhibit the positive behaviors that we look for in Black Tiger Pride. Before I introduce those students, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gary Medcalf, who is the Executive Director of the Cuyahoga Falls Alumni and School Foundation Association, which helps put on this program for us. So, Mr. Medcalf.
Thank you. Congratulations to all the Top Tigers and their parents this evening. First, we'd like to thank our Top Tiger sponsors, Donato's Pizza, Dietz's Florist, and Young Screen Printing. Some of the things that the Schools Foundation Alumni Association does, we help with the building of the new entrance to Clifford Stadium, Tiger Trail. And if you've been through there, you see the bricks. If you still like to purchase a brick, see me afterwards. We help with class reunions, all class reunions. We honor distinguished alumni every year. We provide teacher grants. In the last 7 years, we've awarded over $35,000 to our staff for teacher grants. We provide scholarships for graduating seniors. In the last 7 years, we provided over $1 million in scholarships to our graduating seniors. But last but not least, afterwards, send me out in the hall and you can get one of these nice Top Tiger t-shirts. And in May, at Memorial Day, we will be marching in the Memorial Day Parade. You'll get more information at your school in May. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Medcalf. Dr. Cruz, if you could assist me with the Top Tiger, I'd appreciate it. We'd like to start at Bollock Middle School. Amaya Hickman, are you here? Amaya Hickman here? Come on up here. Amaya has been nominated for the Top Tiger Award this quarter because she consistently serves as a positive role model for Bollock Middle School. Her behavior and academic expectations are outstanding. Amaya actively engages in class discussions and projects while remaining positive with her peers, and she is never late to class. Amaya takes responsibility in everything that she does and always puts forth her best effort while displaying a positive attitude. She is organized and ready to learn at all times. While in class, she works extremely well with other students and shows an avid appreciation for the partnership between teaching and learning. Congratulations, Amaya, on being an exemplary role model at Bollock Middle School. Your consistent effort and achievement are highly commendable. Congratulations. Also from Bollock Middle School, Dane Roberts. Is Dane here? Come on up, Dane. We, the 6th grade team at Bollock Middle School, have nominated Dane because of the hard work he puts in each and every day in school. He works hard in class and his grades reflect that. Over the last semester, Dane has shown to be a leader in the classroom by always willing to volunteer and help in any way necessary. An example of his leadership in the classroom is when he volunteers to answer some of the most difficult questions and help with students who did not quite understand the concept that day. His behavior in class is one of those of a model student, always listening, always trying, always participating. Dane has a great sense of humor, and we always appreciate the quality of the work that Dane brings to Bollock Middle School. Seeing Dane with a smile on his face at school makes that day that much brighter for all of the other students and staff here at Bollock Middle School. How about flash that smile real quick here? Yeah, thank you so much. Congratulations. Roberts Middle School, Kendall Kelsey. Is Kendall here? Come on up, Kendall. Kendall is an 8th grader who has made tremendous strides in her time at Roberts Middle School. She is a hard worker with a kind demeanor and willingness to keep trying. According to her teachers, Kendall always has a smile for others and very positive attitude at all times. Mr. McGovern describes Kendall's best, stating, "She always exceeds my expectations in class, which is very hard to do. And to make it better, she is a fantastic human being with more politeness in her than most of us adults. It is an understatement to say that Kendall is a very impressive young lady who will continue to make us all proud. We are privileged and look forward to watching her continue to lead from the front of the class. She is a top Tiger. Congratulations." Braylon Davis. Braylon here? Come on up, Braylon. Braylon is also from Roberts Middle School. He's a 7th grader. According to Mr. Hartong, Braylon is a fantastic student and even a better kid. Braylon is someone who you will find being respectful, responsible, and safe in any classroom he is in. He's a class leader who always participates and contributes to class discussions. His diligence towards his own work is commendable, and his kindness knows no bounds. This school year has pushed students mentally and emotionally, but Braylon keeps trucking along, earning honor roll, quarter 2, while not missing a single day of school. His resilience will get him far in life. We are sure of that. For those reasons, we are proud to say, Braylon, you are a top Tiger. Congratulations, young man. Moving on to the high school. Kalpana Gamir. Is Kalpana here? Not here this evening? Okay. Kalpana is a 12th grader, and we'll recognize her and make sure she gets her recognition. Ryan Hodson. Is Ryan here? Ryan not here either. Okay. Probably doing all that homework you assigned there at the high school. All right, again, we want to congratulate those students. You do not need to stay unless you're very interested in the rest of the school board meeting. You're welcome to be here, but I always tell the students maybe get some ice cream out of this deal or something for being such a good kid. So, all right, thanks and have a great evening.
Joanne know that we can see her back there? She's hiding.
I can't see her.
She thinks she's hiding in the bookshelf, but I can see her head.
It's not Joanne.
It is.
It's not.
Is it not? Who is it? It looks like her.
I can't tell.
I can click.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, that's fine. Well, that was the question.
Clearly.
Amy has a clicker.
He does have a clicker.
That's right. It's an umbrella and a clicker.
What?
I was asking
Okay,
about a clicker.
presentation number 2, our book study presentation, group 3. 10 minutes is ticking, group 3.
Listen. We get like some sort of like handicap because Cameron's in our group. About the 10 minutes. We gotta add a few, just a buffer. Just a buffer. Okay. So we are Team 3 or Team Titanic is the theme here for our resilient leadership. There we go. All right, so we're gonna recap the first teams. Team 1. They had a fancy clay paper mache iceberg. Okay?
It was foam board.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. See, it wasn't that memorable, so I don't know. And then Joe went, and I felt like it took 84 years. It's supposed to be 10 minutes. So Team 3, we're bringing you a special guest. Besides Mr. Moyer back here, Miss Celine Dion. Where is she? Oh my God.
I am the greatest singer in the world.
Celine, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Now, you've also read the book Resilient Leadership, correct?
No, I read books. I am Celine Dion. People read books to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you're familiar with the
So
work.
what's your name? It don't matter. I'm Celine Dion. That's for your wallet.
Thank you.
You get the full size. There you go. Hello. Crusade.
Oh, thank you so
Crusade,
much.
get the full
Thank you.
size. You know this one, don't you?
So fancy.
Play it, girl. Shabuti, are you from Quebec? You get the wallet. Here you go. I know her. Hello, Anthony.
Could you sign it for me?
Your mask, it is signed.
I need to see you to authenticate
With
it.
hugs and kisses.
Yeah,
I put
you
you
could, yeah, authenticate it.
Anthony, I am not English, so I have trouble spelling. Here you go, for you. My heart goes on for you. You want wallet? Don't sell it on the bag of the E. Do not sell it. Hello?
Hello.
This is the greatest book study in the world.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Celine's got to be running back,
Anyone?
but you know she's busy. She came out just for us, so.
I'll come here wherever you are. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And cheeseburger now.
Thank you, Celine.
She's on my team.
So, moving on. Yeah, no one else is gonna top that. So,
That was 3 minutes of your presentation.
Okay. Good. I got time to burn then. So we kind of split off into pairs here and kind of picked what resonated with each of us to kind of give a little, tidbits of each. So we looked at chapter 3, Bill and I, leading with conviction. Oh, you did. I'm sorry. We did 5. Ours was first in the slide, then I moved it. That's why. Okay. Go ahead.
I really appreciated that you moved me first,
Well, I did
especially
the chapters in
after
order.
all of that. Mr. Sloan had to travel out of town, so my pairing became me. So I was reflecting upon chapter 3, leading with conviction. And you can see there the powerful quote that I liked from that section. In the face of resistance and sabotage, stay the course without feeling defensive or needing to win. And the connection that I made really kind of goes hand in hand with our district mission statement. When I read through this chapter in particular, it talks about the importance of leaders, staying calm, staying consistent, staying clear, so that we are able to establish that culture of caring throughout the district. So, and the one connection in particular that's highlighted, I don't highlight a lot when I read, but this was definitely in there, so I chose to put it in the presentation, was on pages 49 and 50, there's a little graphic about reactive versus productive complaints. And that really got me thinking about it. Sometimes I love having people in my life, first of all, that challenge me on things. So I kind of challenge people like, is this culture of caring or is this culture of complaining? Is kind of something we talk about sometimes. And this reactive complaints versus productive complaints. Reactive complaints are usually born out of, they always happen at the wrong time. It's usually to the wrong person. Most likely the complete off tone. And productive complaints are made at the right time to the right person with the right tone. But both tell us something, right? We learn from both of those things. We especially need to take into consideration and make space for those productive complaints, I think is super important. I think that is culture of caring, is taking time to listen to people when they've found the right space, right tone, those things. But also when they don't, when we do have those reactive complaints, I think that tells us something too, and that's what the text said, is that the reactive complaints can be best understood as a signal that perhaps there is chronic anxiety within the system, right? So whether it's me at Silver Lake, if they're chirping about something little, and I'm like, this is, silly. Well, there has to be more to it, right? And that really made me think of not only grown-ups, but kids. And I think that's why it hit me the most, is because you'll see that a lot in the classroom with kids too. I put that quote in there. They're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And I think that's absolutely true for grown-ups too. That's what reactive complaints made me think of, is usually there's something else going on there, whether it's within the system like the school building or district-wide. Like there's some underlying anxiety, I think, that goes with the reactive complaints piece. So I gave chapter 3 4 stars. Other people were maybe I'm a harsh critic. I really loved it. I liked the whole book.
What was that out of?
Like a movie.
5? Okay.
Yeah, that's important to know. You're right. Yeah, that was my reflection on chapter 3, leading with conviction.
What just happened? What did I do?
From memory.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So now it's Bill and I. We were in the order here, and then I switched them. So Balance the Seesaws, chapter 5. And so we gave it 5 stars. Both of us, this chapter kind of resonated to both of us. It talks about overfunctioning and underfunctioning. So overfunctioning is to think, feel, or act for another in a way that erodes their capacity for ownership or effective action. And then underfunctioning is allowing the behavior of others to diminish one's own functioning. And so one of the powerful quotes we took away was, if you're overfunctioning in your leadership role, there is an underfunctioning somewhere in the system you lead, or vice versa.
The other thing that you have to take in consideration when you're overfunctioning, it increases burnout and failure to elevate the performance of the task that's at hand. And then the other thing that you have to realize is if you're over functioning, somebody else is under functioning. So you're doing all the work. So you have to make sure that your team knows that, that you guys are working as a team and bring all that together so nobody's number one under functioning and the other person isn't over functioning, especially the leader. I noticed in myself, I tend to over function a lot. And reading this book, I've kind of adjusted a few things that I do with my team. And then the other thing I noticed while reading this, or because of this chapter, when I had a meeting a few days ago with my team, there was one of our managers. She was over functioning in her cafeteria, and I kind of, presented this chapter to her and said, hey, you need to delegate some of this work out so you're not going to get burned out. And they also are not under functioning to where, they get used to you taking over those tasks all the time. So the other thing we wanted to conclude with was these two questions to you. How might your over-functioning be eroding the others' capacity for ownership and effectiveness or effective actions? And then also, to what extent are you taking responsibility for your under-functioning or somebody else's under-functioning versus blaming others? So we just wanted to leave you with those two questions to kind of resonate with.
All right, hello everyone, good evening. So we wrapped it up with chapter 6, Alicia and myself, so great thanks to her. We had some good conversations. Chapter 6 really focused on what is an emotional triangle, so emotional triangles. So I wanted to highlight on a couple of those real quickly. Made up of 3 or more people, as you can see the little diagram at the bottom there. When 2 people experience conflict in a relationship, it's natural to bring a third person in to relieve the tension or stress in that relationship. So applies to our work lives, our professional lives, as well as our personal lives. Like you can start to see the triangles around you, spouse, children, friends, and how 3 people start to create a triangle and bringing in that third person to kind of relieve some of the stress. Also, the basic building blocks of every emotional system is a triangle. So appropriately managing your impact in a triangle is a true resilient leadership skill. Next slide, please. Thank you. So more on managing triangles. We gave it 5 stars. Alicia, I think, wanted to personally reflect on an example of stars and progress.
Well, yes, I would say before reading this book that I would have given myself 1 star in managing triangles. And when I wrote this, I was up to 4 stars, then I had a not great weekend, and I was back down to 2. So it's progress in every situation, but I've been able to use this a lot personally, at home, with my kids, spouse and family, and also as a new board member, there's been a lot more triangles than were currently in my life. And one of those big ones is, as we are liaisons in the community, we have triangles dealing with parents and ourselves and then the district. And so where do we fit in that triangle and make sure we're managing those correctly and that we're not interjecting ourselves where we don't need to be, but finding that balance in those triangles.
More of the connection that we made, it's kind of like an infomercial, right? If you want to lower your stress level, appropriately manage your triangles, right? So what does that mean? Oftentimes we get pulled into a triangle and we want to fix something or we want to change this, right? And that feels good. You want to rely on me to fix something. Don't be a fixer. Don't be a change. So what does that mean in understanding the difference of your role in a triangle? What are healthy triangles and unhealthy triangles, and how do you reposition yourself in those triangles? So we kind of made the analogy with the little gentleman lifting weights there, that you don't have to lift the emotional weight, right? You don't have to carry the weight in a triangle. So don't disconnect, which is a common reaction to being in a triangle, and don't try to rescue and be the savior. Work on developing the relationship between the others in the triangle and yourself, and encouraging them to resolve their own issues and emotions that are transpiring instead of trying to fix. And the powerful quote to sum it up, efforts to will any other person to change or attempts to fix what is happening between the others in the triangle almost always produces the opposite effect of what you intended. That was powerful and resonated with us. So, thank you.
So I thought this was funny. What people on the boat would say today if the Titanic sank. There's quite a few of them. If I get wet, I get wet. No big deal. I have a hair appointment tomorrow. Ridiculous. I can't stay out here all night. Thought it was a funny little thing there, and kind of going on to what Cameron said about the closeness, or don't distance yourself or don't be too close. So the most important takeaway of all of this is that Jack could have fit on that plank with Rose, and then there's examples for you. And Rose is a liar. Could have happened.
She did.
Could have happened. That is it.
Thank you. Disney owns that.
Very good.
Yeah.
So group 4 will be up next month. Who's group 4? Looks like it's Dr. Cruz based on her
Good luck.
reaction. So group 4 will be up
We can't wait.
next month.
We're very excited. Very excited.
Moving on to item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda. Ms. Stoikoi.
Yes, I would like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the Treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a couple of minutes, and then donations, which are always much appreciated. There was one at Richardson for some different classroom supplies.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Item F, Treasurer CFO's business. Ms. Stoikoi.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the February 2022 investment schedule and monthly spending report.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Ms. Stoikoi.
Yes. Okay, let's start with. Let's look at the interest. We will do that. February interest. Okay. I'm wondering if I have two of those flip-flopped in there. The Red Tree Investments and the LFI, I think those are, oh no they're not, never mind. So you can see we went down a little bit in, hold on, I'm not looking at the right thing on my computer. There we go, that makes more sense. And my connection was lost, so we'll just look up here. It's going well. So you can see we did a little bit better in our regular account. A lot of this has to do with timing, when things come due, when things mature. Not as much in the, I think that's the LFI account there that we had as much as last month. Again, timing. Definitely much better than 6 months ago or where we were even at a year ago. So that's good. And I know they're talking about kicking up those rates at Fed, so that should help that. Let's do athletics cash flow.
If they kick up their rates, does that help our Huntington account, or does that?
It'll help both.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll help what's out there for when we're ready to invest, when other things come due, what we put our money in, and then it will also help offset some of the stuff that's been going on at Huntington since they cut it to zero.
Okay.
Back when COVID started. So, yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Athletics, again, they're doing well. brought in about 16,000, spent a little less than that. So they're sitting now similar to January, but they're at about 134,000, which you can see is better than the last 2 years, almost combined, if not combined there. So so they're in a good situation. Not athletics, food service. Also doing well. There's our reimbursement for January, which is in February, but it's for all of January meals. It's 254,000. We spent around 167,000. Obviously, that cost is up a little. As you know, many things are up in price. Even at the grocery store, they're up for us as well here. So that's the reason for that increase. So they ended February at $415,000 to the good. So again, they're close to double what they were right before COVID hit. So that's great. General fund. So we started receiving our advances from the county for real estate. So you can see we received $10.7 million in the month of February. We spent about $4.8 million in the general fund. Part of that increase, I will say, is that the ESC has changed the way they bill our preschool program. They used to do it all at once the following year. So once the year's over, they would calculate everything, and then like in August, they would send us the bill for the previous year all at once. Now they've cut it into 2 payments. So there's one in January and then another one in August at the end to kind of true it up. So that first one was a large amount, $400,000, $500,000. So that's why there's a large increase in February compared to previous months and previous years. But we ended with a little over $22 million in the general fund, which is good. You can see it's slightly above where we were last year and well above where we were right before COVID. I think that probably does it. Other than questions.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Stoikoi? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. Item 2, Treasurer CFO's comments.
I just have 2 things. One, we all attended except for Ellen, because she was somewhere else. The Women's Leadership Conference with VASA last Thursday and Friday. It was great to all be there together and do a little bit of team building. So I'd like to thank the board and everyone for allowing us that opportunity. For the ones that were left behind and couldn't live without us, thanks for pitching in there. And my second comment is a personal note, because I know that she's listening. My parents just came back from Florida, and she listens to these board meetings, and she calls me like on the way home, and she'll be like, "Ooh, look at you get this," and I'm like, "You need to get a hobby." So I could publicly tell her to get a hobby while she's listening. But she is back from Florida, and I haven't seen her, so we will be visiting them soon. But she still needs a hobby. That's other than myself.
Thank you. Item G, Superintendent CEO's Business Consent Agenda, Mr. Shappity.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve all the items listed in the superintendent's business consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? I just wanted to thank Ms. Tammy Brown for volunteering to do the work and doing some research on the picture companies. I know it's been a hot topic for our families, so thank you to her for taking that on. And I want to recognize 2 retirees. I know we'll recognize them later in the year as well, but Dee Madonia and Judy Ray, both who have dedicated many, many years right here at the high school. Thank you to both of them. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Item H, Superintendent CEO's business, Mr. Shabady.
We do have an additional H1 memorandum from the Summit ESC. I'm going to ask Dr. Cruz just to speak on that very quickly. Apologize for the lateness, but it came in today and it's due on Friday. Of course, you know how those things work
Sure.
sometimes. But Dr. Cruz, if you just give a little brief overview of that.
I'll read the recommendation so we can get a motion real quick. It's
Thank you.
recommended that the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding between the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education and the Summit Educational Service Center.
So moved.
Thank you. Okay. Amanda.
Sure. So our department, including specifically Holly Merkel, Cameron Lazar, Chris Shaw, we have been investigating resources and practices to support the identification and services for homeless students and their families. And we realize that it really does take a community to get at the root cause and provide supports. And we were grateful that this consortium was presented to us so that we can do a lot more with the funds that the state has given us. It certainly broadens our opportunities to be a part of this consortium. We'll be able to access more programming, consider professional development, and honestly attack this and join other districts to have a more comprehensive support for our families in the area, not just here in our community. So it's a great opportunity for us to work with the Summit ESC and local districts and pool our resources to provide more comprehensive supports.
And I'll just add on my piece. So this was part of the ESSER 3 round that they gave out, and I've spoke about it before. So we received an amount of money for homeless under ESSER 3. And what this does is basically just sends that money that's out there for us. It's not a lot, but it sends it over to the ESC. And they manage it, and then they, going along with everything Amy said. So.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Item 2, Superintendent CEO's comments.
Just a couple things. As Christy said, this month is Women's History Month, and there's been a lot of discussion about female leadership in our country and the history. And I think the board needs to make sure they understand the importance of allowing those people to go to that Women in Leadership Conference, what they bring back in leadership skills and the ability to really bond as a group is well worth it. So I just want to thank the board for allowing that to happen as well. I did want to recognize and let you know that as the principals were out of the buildings, several of the individuals, Ryan, Cameron, KJ, Tom DeFrancisco, and myself covered the buildings and helped out in those areas. And Joe, I'm sorry, Joe was there too. So I just wanted to know those were covered and we had administrative help and support in those areas. So secondly, I'm not going to steal any of their thunder, but Richardson and DeWitt just both got some significant grants. And I think probably the best thing is to have them come to the next meeting and share those with us. It's really neat to see a lot of grant writing going on in the district and some pretty significant ones. So we'll bring those people in next and share with those grants. And we're still waiting on a few others, so very excited about that. And last thing I would just say is I wish everyone a happy, safe spring break. And we're going to come back and finish out the last of the school year. It's hard to believe we're there already, but we are. So we just want everyone to have a safe trip and come back ready to finish the school year on a positive note. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item I, board business number 1, strategic planning conversation. So as you know, this has been something that we've been talking about for a while, and so Mr. Hutch is going to help me. I'm going to stall so he has time to get it set up. So I put these thoughts together that previous board members, our thoughts on this with Ms. White. I talked with Cabinet and Mr. Shabady as well, and kind of try to bring this all together, talk about why we think we have a problem and what we might be able to do about it. So, if you want to go to the next one, please. So defining the problem. And all these conversations that we've had over, since COVID started, Ms. White, probably, there's 5 things that have come up as why we're having problems with the strategic plan. One are the strategies that were used to develop it. Second, obviously, COVID changed everything. Third are the focus areas. Number 4, it's not particularly student-centered. And number 5, there's just too many things. So going into the strategies. So one of the big concerns that administration and staff both give when you talk about the strategies that we used to develop this plan was the weight that was given to community feedback versus staff. So the people that are going to have to live and work and do the plan feel that their feedback was not elevated in the same way as the community's was. And so then we created a disconnect, whereas we created a strategic plan based off of community perceptions of the schools, but not in staff lived realities of where our schools are at. So that's part of that problem. And then aspirational versus achievable versus inspirational. Our strategic plan is very achievable. There's nothing that inspires people in it, I found, overall, in terms of the goals. And there's not a lot of aspirational pieces. It's a lot of stuff that you just kind of do. And so it becomes too basic and it's not exciting. And so one of the examples is it says that we provide professional development to staff. Well, we're going to do that no matter what. There's nothing in that, like, are we going to provide high quality professional development to staff? Are we going to provide responsive professional development to staff? There's just nothing to that piece that motivates excitement or really intentionality. So next up was COVID. That happened, so we have to go back. This happened in year 1 of our trying to live out this strategic plan. COVID happened. So we had really good plans pre-COVID, like everyone in the world did, but that changed everything. One of the things that I think did us well for COVID is at the very end of our strategic plan, you have that portrait of a graduate. And if you look at that, those are the things that our kids were learning and doing during COVID, all those soft skills that we talk about. So that served us well during COVID, that portrait of a graduate. And then I think there's 2 types of districts going forward as we feel like we're getting back to normal, so to speak. Are we going to act like COVID never happened and just try to force everyone to go back and fit into a puzzle of what life was like before COVID? Or are we going to say that we actually learned from things and that we, from the challenges and the opportunities that we faced during this pandemic, are we going to learn from it and rethink how we are as a district? So then number 3 is focus areas. So we have to think about what has changed in the last 7 years and what will change in the next 3 years, because we have 3 more years of this strategic plan if we go with that. So go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So CF Vision 2020 was our district strategic plan from 2014 to 2019. You could see the 4 focus areas there. And then Black Tiger Pride is our strategic plan for 2019 to 2024. So that's a decade of lived experience, and yet we're keeping all the same focus areas. We renamed some of them, but it's the same thing. So from the start, when we went in on focus areas and what our goals should be, we were living in a reality of what the world was like in 2013, 2014, when CF Vision 2020 was created. So we didn't really give ourselves the opportunity to think about where is the world now, and especially going back to the previous point about COVID, the world's a very different place from 2014, so we need to kind of rethink a little bit how we are. And then next up is it's not very student-centered, so Dr. Cruz has done a good job of emphasizing the whole child framework. You use a different image, but I liked this one, so I used this image. And so at the center of everything is supposed to be the whole child, but I like to say that the center of everything is supposed to be the well child, because all of these different things that come are supposed to be developing a well child. And we had really good, high-quality conversations in creating this strategic plan, but we didn't center it on the student. We didn't center it on the classroom. We didn't think about creating a strategic plan to bring resources to the classroom. So it wasn't intentional in that way, and I think that whole child focus is so important. I know Dr. Cruz is trying to drill it into people's minds in this district slowly through the work of her department in a good way. And so I think as we go forward, we need to make sure that whatever we do as a board in terms of a strategic plan, goals, whatever that may be, that we make sure that the classroom is the focus of what we're doing. And so number 5 is what I call too many things. We have too many things. There's too much going on, and I'm not saying get rid of all of these things. Some of them are required, some of them are good. But we have 4 focused areas. We have the ICS work we're doing. We have social emotional learning. We have a portrait of a graduate. There's in the strategic plan a big long thing of belief statements. We have the Ohio improvement plan and the one needs assessment. Those are tied together. The literacy studies. We have a curriculum audit that we did pre-COVID and an adoption cycle of curriculum. We have a mission. We have a vision. We have a strategic plan, and we have yearly goals. And it's just too much because we can't know all of those things by heart. And so we can't live all of those things every day. And when you talk to people about what is our focus in the district, well, they're trying to do all of those things. Every day they're trying to make all of those things happen, and God bless those people for doing that. But it would be much easier for our administrators and our staff if everybody knew what the focus was. And all of those things are good things. I have nothing bad to say about any of those things. But it's just too many things. And in my group with Mrs. McClure, when we were doing the book study, some of the principals said to me, they go, every year we get something new. They're like, we love this book study, but we want to be resilient leaders, but what are we taking off the table so that we can put energy into this? And if our administrators feel that way, our staff feels that way, the people in the classroom feel that way, they don't know what they should be putting their energy into, and we're just kind of having people expend their energy on all of these things and just feel exhausted because of it, as opposed to all putting our energy into a couple of focused, really well-focused things that we could all see results from and then actually celebrate and feel good about. Because when you can see results from what you're putting energy into, you're usually energized to keep putting energy into it. But when you're not seeing results from what your energy is expended on, it leads to resentment because you feel you're being exhausted for no reason. So moving forward to the next one, what have we learned? So we've done some really good work in our district with Mike Smoker's focus, and then we did leading with focus, and now we're doing resilient leadership. We've learned a lot of things, and by collaborating with the board and administration, we've been able to have conversations with our administrators to kind of understand what are our problems and what should be our focus areas. So there's some key takeaways on the next slide. Simplicity and clarity, that's gotta be something we emphasize. Literacy as a foundation. Resiliency is practiced. The idea of getting on the balcony, which is something that we're doing right now. And that social emotional wellness has to be for all, not just for students, it's gotta be for staff, it's gotta be for us as well. We all have to be involved in that. And so I had to throw a GIF in.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
she said we could do this, and I do. I feel that way. Like I feel like we can make those things happen, but it's going to take some work. So I wanted to give to our new board members on the next slide a little bit of history of how we've created goals, and this is just since I've been on the board with Ms. White. So when I first came on the board, every department and building, so every administrator had to create goals every year. And it was usually around 3 goals. Some people had 5, but there was no clear guidance of like what they need to be. It was just like you have to have goals, and then we're gonna monitor them. So everybody was doing their own thing, and we did not see a lot of success from that. I think Ms. White would agree with
Yeah,
that.
I absolutely.
Because we weren't all working towards one thing, and some of the goals were silly things that shouldn't have been goals.
And didn't they have to do in the 4 areas as well? They'd have a goal in 3 of the 4 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
That was, I think,
For the
my
building.
first
Yeah.
year,
I think
and then my
that
second
changed,
year
but-
that changed. And then we tried number 2, which was every department and building made their own goals and tried to tie them to the strategic plan. and we're kind of like getting there, but even still, our administrators didn't necessarily have people to help them with that goal, because maybe HR is working on a goal in maybe focus area 3, and maybe they got that goal done, but then Lincoln's working on a goal in focus area 3, but it's completely different. So we didn't give them the opportunity to really support one another, because even though we were kind of working towards the strategic plan, we weren't working on the same things. And so this year, we made district goals, and there's 10 of them, and I could not tell you what one of them is, and action plans to accomplish them. So you see, we're trying different things, I don't want to say not seeing success, because some of our departments and buildings met their goals and put a lot of work into meeting their goals, and I want to acknowledge and appreciate that. But as a district, perhaps we're not seeing a lot of success. And I don't know what our 10 goals are this year, and I feel bad to say that, but it's just the truth, because 10 goals is a lot. It's too much. So next is the big question. Why do we want to talk about this now? One, because it's been a problem, as you've seen, for a long time in this district, a lack of focus and clarity. But also, the core leadership team of a district is the board superintendent treasurer. There's 7 people here, as you are aware. 4 of those 7 people are new. So it's an opportunity to rethink this. I will also say, if you talk to the board members that sat here before, they would agree with this as well. So it's nothing against them. But it's a good time to rethink this, and as we go and hopefully completing our superintendent search on Saturday, it would be helpful to start having some more focus as that person comes in and can join in on these conversations. So that's why now. And so what's worth keeping? We have a lot of things. What is really worth keeping? I have a 3-fold thought criteria on the next slide. It's, do we know it, can we do it, and do we live it? Because if we don't know it, and we can't do it, and we're not going to live it, it doesn't have a lot of value for us. And all 3 of those you'll see do, because these are active things we need to be doing, and because it has to be all of us. We can't be splintered anymore in our own ways, even if, like I said, some people were really good at achieving their goals, but even still, we're not, as a district, working towards one direction. So on the next one, here's some things that I personally, this is just me, thinks are worth keeping. I think the portrait of a graduate is worth keeping, because our students have been living that through COVID. I think our mission and vision are worth keeping, because people know them. Our community as a whole knows them. I get emails sometimes from parents that aren't happy, and they'll quote our mission or vision and be like, this isn't every student, every day, every opportunity. And I'm like, but you know what? That's amazing. So Black Tiger Pride, it's our PBIS framework, and just the idea of Black Tiger Pride, I think, is something that we could build off of. And then 2 big picture goals. That comes from Ms. White's passion about having 2 goals. And then I brought this together too, because even visually as a district, we're not unified. All 5 of these are actually different logos used in different ways. So if somebody asked you what our district logo is, we don't even really have, you could give them any 5 of those. And they're all used on official district things, all 5 of those. So if we aren't even visually united, we got some issues. And those are all good logos. I have nothing against any of those 5 logos either. They're all great. But it just, if visually you can't even ask someone, what is your district logo? It shows we've got a bigger problem. So what should we do? Propose next steps. And then the next one. The goal is goals. We want to have achievable, aspirational, inspirational goals that we could all work towards, our entire Black Tiger community can work towards. And so this comes from Panorama. They call them WHOOP goals. And I like it because it puts a little bit more effort on the front end. So it talks about, you have to think of, what is your wish? What is your wish? If you could wish for something in this district, what would that be? And then what would that outcome look like? And then what would be the obstacles to that? And then you get to the planning. And the planning can be a SMART goal, because a lot of people like SMART goals. That can be your plan, but that doesn't come till step 4. A lot of work goes into thinking about what it can be, and that's that aspirational and inspirational part. And so next is a little bit of a timeline on the next one of where we're at. So where are we at? Hopefully we can finish strong, make our best efforts to achieve our current goals. We've got 10. If we achieve 2 of them, I think that would be good. I don't think we're going to achieve all 10 on a whole because we're so unfocused. Next is to really focus on simplicity and clearly as a board decide on a path forward. We don't have to do that tonight because I'm throwing a lot of information at you. And then I call it the you pick 2 because if Panera can do it, why can't we? 2 goals that are focused, student-centered, and everyone can know. And we're not reinventing the wheel here. These are things that other districts do. I just recently watched Parma's superintendent's State of the Schools. And they read the book Focus in Parma as well. And they have a graphic that they actually hand out to people. They print it on note cards. And when people are like, what are you doing in Parma schools? They're like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what everyone in our district's working towards. And everyone in their district knows it. So we're not doing something that can't be done or isn't being done 40 minutes away from us. And then next is implementation. Implementation of whatever we decide is the administrative part of it. And proper implementation requires accountability and well-defined roles, and that's something that whoever our next superintendent is, that'll be their job. And then monitoring is our job. Highly effective boards of education regularly monitor their goals to achieve success. So we would have to think about how do we want to monitor our goals and in what way do we want to receive that. And so that's it. What's next? I don't know. But we've had a lot of conversations over the 4+ years I've been on the board with Ms. White and the other 3 board members, and it's the time is now to do this. Everything in our district is coming together. There's so much positive momentum in our district right now, and I think the energy is there. It's being expended on all these other things as it is. We could really just focus in on 2 major goals. We could make some real progress in this district, and we could all have something to celebrate and move forward to. So that's what I have for tonight. It's a lot of information, I know. That's why I'm not asking us to make any decisions tonight. So we're all going to receive that, and then I'll email that to digest that out. But it's been 4 years of conversation since I've been on the board, and it's time for us to really try to talk about doing something and having some clear direction that we can all work towards so that we can all achieve things together for the students of this district.
I wholeheartedly agree, and thank you for bringing this up, because I do think it's very important, and you know it was to me, so thank you very much.
So we'll talk about that in the future as well, and I'll send that out to everyone so that you can digest it. Item 2, future agenda items. Does anyone have any future agenda items?
Can we continue with the strategic plan, like every month, or maybe not every other month or something like that, so we can discuss and bring ideas? And that's really the only thing that I have.
Anyone else? I wanted to know if we could have those that went to the Women in Leadership maybe come and give us some key takeaways of what that meant to them, what they gained from that at a future meeting. And then just to highlight some presentations that are coming. The first meeting in April, we're going to have presentations from Dr. Cruz's department on Engage Ohio and a possible virtual learning option. The second meeting in April, we're going to have an update from the 612 literacy team. And then sometime in May, we'll have our student wellness and success update along with a panorama update after the second administration. So that's coming events. Number 3, committee reports. 612 construction core team, Ms. White.
Yes, we met the first Thursday of the month, and basically we just talked about the neighborhood meeting And we tried to get out the fact that they're gonna be tree trimming and taking down some of the trees, and getting ready and letting the neighbors know and just, you know, reaching out to them and that kind of thing. Planning for the groups, the high school groups to meet, middle school as well, and the departments and all that. I should be done by the end of the month. And then we kind of went into the plan for tomorrow a little bit, so that's kind of where we were.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that too. They've been delayed in the BOE cutting those trees down near the track because of the weather, but tomorrow I think it's on,
good.
so just to let you know.
But they did prepare the neighbors.
Yeah.
The neighborhood meeting went really well, too,
Thank
I
you.
thought, so.
Alliance for School and Community Growth, Ms. Coco.
Yeah, we had a great meeting. I think this past month we had a lot of discussions about hiring needs in our community, and what up and coming hires are now looking for in employment as opposed to what it used to be. Those needs are changing. What they're looking for in a job is changing. It's not money, it's more around appreciation and wellness and things like that. We had discussions on how, as a district, we can facilitate partnerships that benefit our students and our local businesses moving forward. So our next meeting is April 12th, 8 a.m.
Thank you. Athletics and Activity Council, Mrs. Schaefer.
Well, we met on Monday. We went over the winter sports recap and the financial report. One of the topics of conversation was the weight room and how there are some cosmetic things that need to happen in the weight room to make it like I hate to say an inviting place for a weight room, but like some place that the kids want to come in and do their thing. We also talked about if there would be a possibility to hire a strength and conditioning coordinator, which I guess is something that we've had in the past. And we talked about soccer and track future plans, where they'll be practicing, where they'll be competing, and it's a lot of information in a 1-hour meeting. It sure was.
Thank you. Board Policy, Ms. White. Yourself?
We didn't have anything, but I think we need to meet.
Yes.
Because we got a whole new packet of policies to go over.
We will need to set up a
Yeah,
meeting.
date for a meeting.
Correct. And this is my fault, but we had policies that were on a first read at the last meeting. We forgot to put them on for approval. So those will be on for approval at the next meeting. So that is our report. Business Advisory Council, Mr. Harris and Ms. Coco.
We had a meeting scheduled for yesterday, and for the second month in a row, we seem to have a disconnect with the members of that council and actually getting together. So it's something we're going to need to look at, because that is a required thing that needs to happen 4 times a year. So that's definitely something we're going to have to discuss.
Tired of meeting with me?
No, it's great. I need more coffee if we're going to do that every month, but
I think there's
it's
some
not
people on that list that I guess terms were expired or something, and so there needs to be a whole shakeup of that whole committee there. So.
Yeah, it needs revamped.
Good. Financial Advisory Committee, Mrs. Schaefer.
Well, at the last meeting, I neglected to give the report from when we met.
You don't have a meeting.
We do not have a meeting tomorrow. We went over the comprehensive annual report, which we just got a copy of. This is the coolest thing. It's like literally a portrait of the entire community, not just like the finances of the school. I mean, it has like just all about the district, and I thought that was very cool. We are in compliance. And then the Auditor of State, we received the Auditor of State with Distinction Award, which seems like a lot of words. And then Ms. Doikoy let us know only 3.6 of the audited entries received this award. It's 144 out of 3,931. So that's pretty spectacular. Congratulations. That's, I'm sure, not an easy task.
Foundation Alumni Association, that's me. We met last Tuesday, and the big bulk of our work was stuffing our mailers for those that joined. So I have Ms. White's to give her, and I would like to have more to hand out, but other people haven't joined yet. So you can go to cfsfaa.org and you can join our foundation, because as you hear every meeting from Mr. Medcalf, all the good work that we do. And this year you get a window cling and a jar opener. So two freebies if you join. Yeah.
And you don't have to be a graduate to
Correct.
join, just for those of you
Correct.
that are not.
And this year we actually have more scholarships to give out than we had people apply for them. So we'll actually be turning over some money into next year. But we're churning along. Great things are happening. The first Monday in May at 7 p.m. in the auditorium will be our scholarship recognition. That night is when the graduates will find out which scholarship they're getting. They will only know that they're getting a scholarship, but they won't know which one and how much until that night. So it's exciting, and we'll honor our distinguished alumni as well. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Harris.
Yes, just a few things. Governor DeWine just signed a few recently enacted pieces of legislation. House Bill 51 allows public body, including a Board of Education, to temporarily meet remotely until June 30th of this year. Senate Bill 181 establishes restrictions on policies that prevent students from wearing religious apparel when competing or participating in athletics or extracurricular activities. Permits certain officials to limit the wearing of religious apparel if it's a danger to participants to be identified as such. Some pieces of legislation that were just introduced. So I went through here and just tried to highlight the more important ones. House Bill 582 would reduce term limits of school board members from 4 years to 2 years, to limit a school board member to serve no more than 4 consecutive terms, and to repeal the requirement that school board candidates appear on nonpartisan ballot. House Bill 583 would require the State Board of Education to issue a temporary short-term substitute teaching license to approved applicant who will teach 5 or fewer consecutive days in the same classroom. That would require the Board of Education to issue a temporary substitute teaching license to an approved applicant who will teach 6 or more consecutive days in the same classroom if certain requirements are met. And it would allow student teachers to work as a substitute teacher for up to 5 days. And this will go through June 30th of 2025. House Bill 588 would declare the General Assembly's intent to establish new State Board of Education districts. Senate Bill 304 would prohibit public schools, among others, from providing any abortion-inducing drugs. Senate Bill 306 to establish a voluntary tutoring and remedial instruction program that public schools and chartered non-public schools may participate in, administered by educational service centers. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Student Achievement Liaison, Ms. White.
Yes, we met on the 14th, and I was so impressed with the meeting. We started off with thinking of something either hopeful or joyful. Well, I had a little, usually it's with students, but I don't have any. So I was trying to think, and I'm thinking, we're getting a new superintendent, no offense.
He didn't apply. He could have.
I know, but we like you very much. But we do have 4 good candidates, and I said I'm very hopeful for that we'll get a very good superintendent coming up. So that was how we kind of started. Then we went into focus, and I'm very much into focus and the goals that he says. And of course, I have 3 that I would like to see, and I think we're going in the right direction. And I was so happy to attend because we did a little bit of checking for understanding with that book, but his focus is focused on reading and writing across the curriculum and power standards. And to me, that's the ultimate. When we do that and we really get every kid reading across the curriculum, everyone writing across the curriculum, we're going to get there. There's no doubt in my mind. And so I was glad to hear Mrs. Seifert, or Dr. Seifert, I should say, and Miss Dudones talk about those things. And I also loved how Miss Dudones really said, you know, ELA writing, that's English, is different from science or social studies. It's a little different thing when you look at it. And I'm in awe. I just loved it. And I was so happy to be there and to hear how we're going forward with the literacy, which is so dear, you know, to my heart. So I am so happy about that. It was really exciting. I can't wait to keep going. So I'm all.
Okay, thank you. Student Wellness and Success Liaison, that's me. Our panorama, our second survey, it's the same survey, but we sent it out for a second time to gauge for our 3rd through 12th graders. That is this week, and so as I said before, in May, we're going to, as a board, have an opportunity to be presented with that information, and then have some conversation about the other things that Holly Merkel and her team are doing. Number 4, comments. Up first tonight is Ms. White with an article.
I do, but that's later. Well, first of all, I do want to thank everybody for, like, at the student learning. I really enjoyed that thoroughly, so I want to thank all of those people that were there and gave time. I also was lucky enough to attend Musical Horizons, which is our jazz bands, and Bollock and Robert's jazz bands played, and they're just so cute and so good for their age. But then you get to the high school, you know, and it is a difference with the high school jazz and the Gold Tones, and they're so fantastic. It was so good to sit in the audience and hear them play, and especially to me because my granddaughter's there and it's her last year. So they did one of my favorite songs, which was Stardust. I love that song. And I listened to a lot of my mom and dad's music, but at any rate, it was just phenomenal. So I hope they get to perform a little more at the end of before the year's over, but just wonderful. I do have an article that I brought because I thought this was so important, but I also think that most of our teachers and staff do this already, but I wanted to highlight some of the things that a lot of them already do. Nurturing students through social interactions is the title of the article. Students come to the classroom with varied backgrounds and experiences that have the potential to support rich learning. To realize that potential, though, they need to feel safe, welcome, and secure enough to take risks, particularly to share who they are and what they think. Can I read the whole thing? Okay. Positive student-teacher relationships characterized by such demonstrations of care have been found to be critical to support student learning. Strong classroom participation, for example, really helps with less school retention and so on. Overall, they found that teachers who were most successful with historically marginalized students had taken specific steps to establish strong relationships with them, creating a nurturing classroom environment. And I think this is where a lot of our teachers already do these things. Teachers use humor to connect with their students, shift between tasks, introduce potentially difficult material, break inevitable lulls in the classroom. So it's a good sense of humor about yourself and about, you know, breaking up or whatever in the classroom. It's a good time. Now, sometimes humor can be taken subjective, it's very subjective to who you are in your generation. So you don't want to go overboard, but a little bit of sense of humor is always welcome. And then by remembering what students have shared about themselves and by showing concern and interest over time, they can nurture the sort of positive, trusting relationship that encourages students to stay engaged and motivated in class. And that's another thing that I think I see a lot in our district with our teachers. Admitting mistakes, that's really hard to do sometimes as a teacher if you admit a mistake. I know one time when I was a very first year teacher, and I had the stuff, I was reading the stuff the night before I taught it. Well, I happened to get stuck with, well, I won't say stuck, but English literature, and I was reading Francis Bacon. I'm reading it that night, and I'm going to class teaching. And we discussed, and we all came up, and this one kid in the back, I don't think that's right, Mrs. White. And I said, okay, tell you what I'll do. I'll go home, I'll reread it, I'll look at it. So I did. Sure enough, I'm wrong. The kid was right. So the next day, go in and said, you know what, everybody, let's take a break, let's look at this, because this is not right, he was right, and let's see why. And so it's just admitting those mistakes, you know, that you make them, we all do, we're all human. So explaining your decisions also, why do you do something the way that you do? And I think that's really important. Again, I could give you millions of examples, but I won't. But just trying to explain why you're doing this. Why are you choosing to have them write this piece, or what, you know, and so on. And I think a lot of times our teachers are right there, and that's why I brought this article with me today, because I really think our teachers do almost everything they can to make our students feel welcome and successful. So
Thank
that's all
you.
I got.
Next up is Ms. Coco.
Just congratulations to the Top Tigers this evening that we're here. It's, I think, all of our favorite part of our board meetings. A shout out to the Robotics Club. We just got information today from Mr. Hutch. The 2022 Neotech competition, our district's team was first in the team competition, and there were 2 students, one from Roberts, one for Bollock, that finished first and second in different areas that helped reach that team first. So congrats to them, that's awesome. Tying in with literacy, shout out right now, Richardson, the PTO has partnered with the building to do a Readathon as a fundraiser. In the past week and a half, as of yesterday, students have logged over 11,000 minutes and counting to the end of the week, and raised over $5,000. And there's a little under half of the students that have chosen to participate in that. And I know my daughter, my 10-year-old, has never been excited out of all 4 of my students about reading. This year, she's really blossomed in that area as a 4th grader, and along with that, she built herself a fort to read in this week. So she's participating, and no, she cannot count the closed caption on anime. She tried to have me count those minutes.
Why is that not reading?
I didn't let her count it in her reading minutes. It does count as reading, but anyways, it's really awesome that they're doing that, and there's a lot of excitement around that and with literacy. I'm very excited about the superintendent search that we'll be finalizing on Saturday, and last but not least, April 8th and 9th, Cinderella will be at the Cuyahoga Falls High School, and as a district, I think that there are impossible things happening every day. So thank you to everyone that makes that possible.
Thank you. I am up next. First, I want to give a thank you to Miss Bogdan here at the high school. She gave Mrs. Schaefer and I a walkthrough tour of the building in function last week, and it was very nice to see what our buildings are like when kids are in them, because so often we're here after hours, but it was nice to get to see our buildings with kids in them and just see the reality of what our buildings are. And it was exciting. We saw a lot of people that were happy and excited and engaged and learning, and so it really energized me. I went back to work and I was like all energized, because it's hard to not be energized when you see those good things happening in our buildings. I had the opportunity to go to OSBA's Board of Education 201 and get some good information on some stuff that I'll be bringing to our policy committee, because there was a lot of good policy information there. And many of us had the opportunity to go to our CFEA's Night at the Races to support their scholarship fund. That was a lot of fun, and nice to see so many people there. I did talk to Lucille Esposito from GAR, and she told me to give a shout out. We had 8 teams of people submit grants this year, grant requests to the GAR Foundation. She was very impressed by how many people did that. And Saturday, she and her team are sitting down to pick winners. So good luck to our 8 teams. We obviously want all 8 to get the money that they want. And lastly, I'm also excited about our superintendent search. I'm excited for the members of our community and our parents and our staff to meet and get an opportunity to question people as well and give us feedback to help us shape what our decision will be. So I look forward to that on Saturday. Next up is Mr. Harris.
Yes, I'll be echoing a lot of stuff that's been said already. Congratulations to our top Tigers as always. My wife and I had the opportunity to attend, along with Mr. Gomez and Schaefer, the night at the races. I lost a lot of money.
You donated a scholarship.
That's right, I donated to a scholarship. Tell my wife that. We also stopped by DeWitt's Art Walk and Ice Cream Social the other day. It was fantastic. I was nowhere as good as those students at that age, so very impressed. Also, congratulations to those students who competed and placed in the Neotech competition. It was cool seeing that. Awesome work there. And then lastly, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richardson, I'm volunteering, I should know. Richardson's Bingo and Pizza Night is this Friday, starting at 6 o'clock. So we hope to see you folks there.
Thank you. Mrs. Schaefer.
Well, I have a lot of the same things everyone else did. I thank you, Ms. Bogdan, for the tour of the high school. Even though we attended this high school, it's a completely different perspective coming through as an adult. Also got to attend the Board of Education 201 training. It was a lot of good information, and also they gave us a pretty good lunch. The night at the races, that was my first time attending that event. It was so fun. I had no idea what to expect, and it was a lot of fun. I also made donations to them. And I also got a chance to go to Silver Lake Elementary School for their art show and book fair. And Mr. Mancini gave me like a little mini tour of the building. I've never been in anywhere but the gymnasium, so that was pretty cool. Also attended Musical Horizons. Such a great show.
Yeah,
Bollock played one of my favorites, Watermelon Man.
I loved
They
it.
did a great job. And Gold Tone's just fantastic. They had some bonus instruments. I thought, it would be great if they had a flugelhorn, and then all of a sudden a flugelhorn was playing. It was so good.
I know, it was
So good. And then I also have an article to read. It's very short. Cuyahoga Falls High School concert bands achieve historic first at OMEA contest. All of our bands, the freshman band, gold band, black band, and symphonic band that participated in the OMEA large ensemble contest, all qualified to go to state, which is the first time that's happened. Let's see. All 4 concert bands perform on Wednesday, April 27th at for their spring concert in the auditorium, and it is at 6:30. The concert is free and open to the public. And I think that is all I have.
Thank you. Item J, adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
6:53 p.m.
Wow. I know, but you can't help
know,
it.
it's
Sun's still out.